So once upon a time, there was this little bit of paradise called Thula Thula Wildlife Preserve and Lodge in TransZulu, Natal, about 2 hours drive outside of Durban, South Africa. And on this preserve, there lived a man who became so attuned to elephants that they began to call him the Elephant Whisperer. And when he died, I think it was 2 years ago, his widow, his partner, Francoise Malby-Anthony, took up his work. And she's come here all the way to talk to us about elephants. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This morning I'm going to take you on a safari, but not the usual safari. It's going to be more of a spiritual adventure. We're going to start with a video, 7 minutes video, and I'll see you afterwards to talk to you a little bit more about some more tales from the bush.
Well, calling up animals is usually confined to calling up your dog, isn't it? But there's a remarkable conservationist, a man in KwaZulu-Natal, who communicates with elephants. Lawrence Anthony is calling his elephant herd.
Beautiful boy, huh?
When the first of these elephants arrived 9 years ago at Thula Thula, Lawrence's private game reserve in Zululand, he says he could never have imagined that a relationship would eventually grow between himself and this group of so-called rogue wild elephant.
It's not a case of adopting the elephants. It's being patient enough until they adopt you.
After hearing of the alleged brutal taming of elephants near Brits in 1998, Lawrence made an unsuccessful attempt to acquire some of these unfortunate animals, as they had already been placed in various game reserves. He then heard of elephants from Mpumalanga, which were in desperate need of a good home. The 7 elephants were the remnants of 2 culled herds.
They had become problem elephants. If I didn't take them, they were all going to get put down. So I said, absolutely, we'll take them. So we took them, and that started a sequence of us taking elephants with problem backgrounds.
He showed us what remains of the boma the elephant were first ushered into after arrival at Thula Thula. But it didn't take the stressed jumbos too long to break out. Lawrence's wife, Francoise, remembers flagging down local villagers on the road in the frantic search to find the lost elephant.
And I asked these people, by any chance, you wouldn't have seen 7 elephants? And those people were very polite. They look right, and then they look left, and they say, no, madam.
Thankfully, rangers close to Umfolozi Game Reserve intercepted the elephant and returned them, but with a warning. If it happened again, they would be shot. He realized he had to try something radical if he was going to save them. His plan? To stay with the herd until he could figure out a way to rehabilitate them.
We were here for about 3 weeks. 3 weeks solidly. I mean, we didn't leave here.
Were you just going on instinct? You had no training or...
That's correct. Because the authorities just said, don't have anything to do with the elephant when they're in the boma. Just leave them. And last time we did that, they broke out. So I figured, somehow they have to learn to trust at least one human being.
At first, Lawrence kept his distance, but all the while talking to the elephant as he circled the boma.
I talk about stuff I don't know anything about. I sing. And they get used to the presence, and they see that the presence is benign.
The atmosphere was almost malignant at first. Having been subjected to the trauma of culling and then translocation to a strange place halfway across the country, these elephants were angry and anxious. But after weeks of work, Lawrence said everything suddenly changed.
Everything had gone calm. And the matriarch walked up to me, up to the fence, and by then I was standing close to the fence, and she approached me and I backed off, and she stood there very benignly, ears down, and great emotion around her. And eventually I stepped forward to the fence and she put her trunk through and touched me through the fence. And I thought, well, that's it. We've done what we have to do. There's no more I can do now. I'll let them out, and we let them out.
Since then, the elephant have settled into the beautiful viewing herd they are today. And he has continued to add unwanted animals to the herd with the help of Nana, the matriarch who first reached out to him at the boma.
And on one occasion, this new elephant saw me in the bush for the first time and started to charge, started to come at me. And I was actually on foot, a distance away, but on foot. And the matriarch, Nana, and her sister, Frankie, stop the charge. They actually block the charge with their body. And they did that a couple of times. And over the years, that's happened often now. They will actually discipline and teach the new elephant that I'm okay to have around. It's very interesting. Come, Papa. Yes, my baby. She's a little
The connection between Lawrence and his elephant is so deep that they will often approach him when he is alone in the bush. And on occasion, will answer his call, as we were privileged to experience firsthand. Using a sound that grew out of his conversations with the elephant while they were still in the boma, Lawrence called out to the herd. Within minutes, they approached. We quickly went back to the safety of our game vehicle. Normally, meetings between Lawrence and the elephant don't include a television crew. So he made sure the elephant's attention would be diverted from our vehicle by laying down food. Despite this, Nana came very close.
Come, Papa. Come, Papa.
But the situation was too charged, and Lawrence pulled us away.
Let's go. This is Nana. This is the matriarch. It's just too frantic. We've got people in here, 2 Land Rovers. Normally with her, she'll stand here and she'll stay with me for a long time.
You might think that they're domesticated, but when they get close, you realize that these are genuinely very big, wild animals. It's just wonderful to see the interaction with Lawrence.
We drove off, but even as I spoke to Lawrence about our close encounter at a nearby river, one of the young bulls, Mandla, couldn't control his curiosity and spied.
He's known me since he was a baby, this one. He's smelling, you see what's happening here now.
Did you imagine that it would continue, that you would have this special relationship with them?
Not at all, Richard. And the key to this, though, is to get them so that they're not habituated to human beings. They have to, stay in the bush and be bushy elephants, so the game drive, our guests can see them.
Through the trust built between Lawrence and elephant, the herd has become willing to accept the presence of other human beings, provided they keep their distance. We watched the elephants peacefully for hours as part of a regular game drive. But before we left Thula Thula, we were lucky enough to get a glimpse of how gentle these huge animals can be when communicating with Lawrence one-on-one.
The strangest thing happens is if I go away, I go overseas or whatever, whenever I come back, the day I come back when I drive in, they're standing. They'll come up to the house.
Mandla, who had been watching us at the riverbed, suddenly appeared at Lawrence and Francoise' garden fence. We like to believe he had come to say goodbye to us, but more than likely he was just making sure Lawrence wasn't the one doing the leaving. A day spent with KwaZulu-Natal's elephant whisperer was truly one of my most memorable experiences.
And while it must always be remembered that these are wild animals and therefore potentially dangerous, this extraordinary relationship with the elephants has offered Anthony an amazing opportunity to learn about them. But remember, always on their terms.
Yeah. Thank you. That's why it was important for you to see the video before. And for more, this was my late husband, Lawrence Anthony. That's why I say it was going to be a spiritual adventure. Out-of-the-box thinker Lawrence always had that amazing expression. He used to say, he doesn't understand why people would be sitting in a box and think outside of it. Why don't you just get out of the box, he used to say. Help, rescue, and protect. Oh, sorry. I'll say it in French next time. And I must look here, as I've been told. Sorry, I come from Africa. I'm just not used to it. No, I read it better here. Education and education. Educate. We're out of touch with nature. We need to reconnect. This is what we do at Thula Thula Game Reserve. We've got game rangers who take visitors from all around the world into game drives to teach them about all our conservation projects. Our conservation projects are financed by lodges. We put our visitors in style. We've got 2 beautiful lodges, a camp and a safari lodge. And this helps finance all our conservation projects and efforts, of course. And like Lawrence used to say, now to be in conservation, you have to be able to make a good martini. The herd arrived in 1999, and they escaped 24 hours later. Like everything happens for a reason. Thanks to that, actually, this is how Lawrence was able to build the trust again with that herd of elephants. Now, to explain to you a little experience that we had with Lawrence, Lawrence and I, one day on a little four-wheeler motorbike, we went into the bush to look for our elephants. They had just been released from the boma. And literally, we went down the riverbed, came out of the riverbed, and literally we bumped into them, and we bumped into Frankie. Frankie is the sister of the matriarch, very aggressive. And she started charging us, and it was a real charge. The trunk like this, the ears like that, the tail like that, means death. It means sure death. You can't escape a real charge from an elephant. And Lawrence had that amazing, amazing, genius idea. He stood on the motorbike, put his arms like this, and shouted, "It's okay, my baba, it's me." And that elephant, believe it or not, just stopped. 2 meters away, skidded to a stop. 2 meters away from us. You know, 2 meters is nothing when you've got a 4-ton elephant in front of you. You feel very small and humble. And that elephant, unbelievable, stopped. And then Lawrence repeated, "It's okay, my baba, it's me." And that elephant just backed off a little bit, like, like saying, "Oh, it's you, I didn't recognize you." I mean, we really escaped death that day. Thanks to communication, we came out of it. Lawrence wrote a magnificent book about all the adventures that we have in a game reserve. It's about the rescue of this herd of elephants. It's a magnificent book. It's full of emotions, action, adventure. I receive emails every day from people who read this book from all around the world telling me it changed their lives. It's interesting. Some people change actually even their profession after reading this book. So it's a must read. It has been a bestseller. It came out in 2009. It has been a bestseller between the 5 first bestsellers in South Africa for a year and a half. It's not bad. So it's a magnificent book, The Elephant Whisperer. He wrote other books as well, but this one has been the absolute... it's a story of a life in a game reserve. So if you like animals, even dogs, it's a beautiful book. Another, you know, in the bush, there are always amazing phenomena which happen that we cannot explain in scientific terms. You know, we don't do any hunting. Thula Thula is a sanctuary for wild animals who roam freely. So we don't do any hunting or any culling. So one day we had a game capture. So what we do, we get some animals when we got too many for the balance. We export some of our animals to other game reserves for breeding purpose. So we had about 10 to 12 antelopes at that time in an enclosure, and they were ready for shipment the following morning. At 10 o'clock that night, the herd of elephant arrives, and Nana, the famous matriarch, went to the little gate of the enclosure and undid every single latch with her trunk and her tusk, opening the gate and swung the door open and stood back and waited until every single antelope came out of that enclosure. We couldn't believe their luck, actually. They got freed. Then Nana went back to the herd, and they went back into the bush. There's a game capture. People were not happy at all. But I mean, there is no explanation. Why did they do that? Rescue mission. Another amazing phenomena. 3 months ago, I had a baby elephant in my garden. When you know the family bonds of elephants, and when you know their communication skills, how can they lose a 10-day-old baby elephant? That baby was seen 18 hours before at the tender camp, which is about 5 kilometers away from my house in the game reserve. And which means she walked for 5 kilometers without food, without drinking. They cannot drink with their trunk at that age. They're too small. It's only when they're 6 months old. And she arrived, at my doorstep. You know, it's quite an amazing thing. She wasn't rejected by the herd either. She was in perfect health. So what we did, okay, put her back into my house. Look at this. She's so hungry, she's eating my lunch sweet. And we give her some food with my staff. And we gave her a little, and then after eating, she had a little nap. She's a little baby, you know, she had to have a nap. All that during the rangers were locating the herd. We had to bring her back into the mother. So we put her into a little truck, and off, reunited her with her mother. Now she doesn't leave the side of her mother for 1 second, but we still don't know how come she ended up in my doorstep in a 4,500 hectares game reserve. It's a big space, you know. She had a choice to go somewhere else, but so voila. Another that's what we were talking in the video. The elephants coming to see Lawrence at the main house. So once he missed his flight from Johannesburg, the elephants were on the way up to come and say hello to him, and he missed his flight. Ooh, I don't know how they knew. He didn't come back that day. So the elephants went back into the bush, but they came back the following day. How did they know that? You know, communication in the plant and animal kingdom is everywhere. Us humans, we don't always see it. You know, the acacia tree, when they feel the danger, which means when they feel the giraffe and antelopes love the acacia tree, they inject a tannin inside their leaves to make it taste bitter. Then they release a scent, a pheromone, into the air to warn the other acacia trees of the danger coming. So that's nature. Elephants communicate as well. That's a very long chapter. It's unbelievable. Lawrence passed away on the 2nd of March 2012. I was reading an article from a journalist, a South African journalist, written 10 years ago. She had the same experience as the journalist, Richard Crampton, who was interviewing Lawrence in the video. And she said, one day, when Lawrence dies, the elephants will come and mourn him. They will come and mourn him. I thought 10 years ago, it was a strange statement. On the 4th of March 2012, the elephants come and mourn their dead. The news of Lawrence passing came down as a shock, as the devastation of a bomb. It was like everything was numb, slow motion. We were all in shock. Did the elephants sense it? Of course they did. Of course. They all arrived like a procession at the main house. They hadn't been at the main house for more than 6 months. They all arrived, and then they stood in front of the house for hours and hours and hours, waiting. The 4th of March 2013, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, exactly the same time, same day, 1 year later, we thought, that's quite amazing. 4th of March 2014, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, exactly. They came back exactly 1 year afterwards. The intelligence of these animals is beyond human understanding. And I'm not the first one to say that. Aristotle said it before. Elephants are the animals which surpasses all others in wit and mind. The legacy lives on. Now we've got a herd of 26 elephants, and this was a testimony of the intellectual and social superiority of elephants. And of course, the unique relationship that Lawrence had created with his herd. The legacy lives on now. We work with rhino orphans rehabilitation. We get little baby rhinos who are orphans from poaching, and we raise them until they are 18 months old, and then we release them into the bush. That's a principle of rehabilitation. Put them back into the game reserve, free to roam. 11 hours. It's not 11 hours anymore. It's every 9 hours. A rhino is killed in South Africa, almost 3 per day. Why do they get killed? They get slaughtered for their horn. because of some superstition or beliefs, some myth, that the rhino horn powdered and consumed is an aphrodisiac and as well can cure a lot of disease. It is totally false. The rhino horn does not have any medicinal value. It's keratin, just like your nails and your hair. So like chewing your own nails. So that's why they are killed. 1,004 rhinos killed last year, in 2013. Now, end of June, we're almost at 500 have been killed. The kilo of rhino horn in powder sells for $40,000 to the end consumer in Vietnam, China, Thailand, and other countries from the East. This was our last rhino killed in 2009. We've lost a few rhinos to poachers. Even Tabo, our little baby, was only 2 years old. And he got shot at, but he survived. It was just shot in the leg. Desperate times lead to desperate measures. What we do at Thula Thula, on a small scale, of course, but we do everything we can to save our 2 rhinos. Now they are 5 years old. The 2 little orphans, we do the horn infusion. The vet drills holes inside the horn and to inject 2 things. First, a poison, so that the end consumer will get extremely sick if he consumes it. Thank you. And an indelible dye as well, blue. This one was blue, which is detectable on the X-ray at the airport, which means we can catch the guys. But the big guys, you see, this is the little poachers. They are the African guys, you know, they are the ones with no money who come and shoot the poacher. They are the one that we actually want. We want the syndicates, we want the big people. So, Rhino Horn, we were the first private game reserve to do that in KwaZulu-Natal, and we shall do that. We shall redo it. It's still a little bit experimental, but it doesn't matter. We have to do everything we can to save this species. And they're like rock stars. They've got 24-hour security, our little babies. They've got, that's what I say, roaming free. They will never be free until the poaching stops. We've got 2 guards during the day, 2 guards at night. Our little darlings are just protected all the time. And they come to the lodges sometimes. They love people. That's the problem. They would be such a target for poachers. And those guards' instructions are shoot to kill anyone trying to kill our rhinos. 10 years ago, Lawrence created the Lawrence Anthony Earth Organization, which is a non-profit organization dealing with environmental issues and animal welfare. And 2 years ago, more focused on rhino rehab and saving rhinos, I created the Thula Thula Rhino Fund to help us to get funds for all our conservation projects for our rhinos. And thanks to that, in conjunction with the Lawrence Anthony Earth Organization and the Thula Thula Rhino Fund, last year in December, we received a magnificent donation from an Austrian welfare organization called 4 Paws, which allowed us to build the first rhino rehab center in KwaZulu-Natal for little orphan rhinos. And hope this is going to work. This is not working. Okay, this is music, was supposed to work at the same time, but there's no music. It's just Lawrence. It's just to thank Lawrence for being such an inspiration for all of us at Thula Thula to carry on his legacy. You see how they follow him. Voilà. So I'm supposed to be... And so the message is just for our rhinos, if you can just, they are a species in the brink of extinction, just because of superstition and greed. So if you can just be their voice, if you can just spread the message, it's not known well enough. And I think that if you've got any contact in those countries in the Far East, just go and tell them, just go and chew their nails, but don't kill our rhinos, okay? Thank you.
Enfin, c'était bien fait. Très bien
Merci,
fait.
merci beaucoup.
Vous êtes très gentil.
Merci.